Hey everyone, here's your semi-regular update about a few episodes that we're working on. We would love to get your questions on heartthrobs. Who are our contemporary heartthrobs? What does it mean to be a heartthrob today? This one's going to be amazing. Also, women's fitness industrial complex. So in some ways, this is about like the pink washing of various things. Like you need like women's specific creatine or whatever, but also just about the messaging about like why women need to be buying all of these different things as part of their like fitness or perimenopausal journey. You can take this in whatever direction you want. And then finally, an episode on AI and creativity. What is AI doing to creativity? Is it something that you can use to foment creativity? We're going to talk with someone who has spent a lot of time thinking about these questions, so please submit yours. And again, it's super easy to do so. You just go to the quick Google form at tinyurl.com/culturestudypod. There's also a spot where you can submit a question for Ask Anna Anything, so please get those in too. And as always, you're a huge part of what makes this show so fun and so smart, so thank you, and enjoy today's show. This is the Culture Study Podcast, and I'm Anne Helen Peterson.
And I'm Nicole Hill, host and creator of Our Ancestors Were Messy.
What is your relationship to gossip, and specifically historical gossip? Because we're going to talk about all sorts of gossip today, but part of the reason that I really wanted to have you on the show is because, like me, you are a freak about historical gossip. So tell me all about it.
Okay, I really went on a journey because I was very much like, I shouldn't care about these things. We should all care about important things. And I dabbled, of course, in the Vanderpump Rules and the Housewives of the world, but this was not something that I led with. And then during the pandemic, when it was just like we were all so isolated, one, I found myself really missing, I just dove into the Housewives like everybody else. I was a Bravo, just all the way in. But I really missed the little dramas of everyday life. And watching my coworker flirt with my other coworker and being like, what's going to happen there? Or just walking down and always seeing that lady at the window, with her coffee and then her partner's there. What are they going to do? Those were the things I really, really missed.
Yeah.
So, I feel like I was on the search for gossip anywhere I could find it.
Yeah.
And then I happened to stumble into some historical crime. But I wouldn't say before that I was all that drawn to historical gossip specifically.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool, but I don't think I was like, let me seek it out. If somebody had made a podcast about it, I'm sure they did, and I'm sure I listened. But I wasn't actually, I know I did. Oh, I'll never remember the name of the show. But it was about historical gossip, and there was some lady poisoned a bunch of people, and I was like, you tell me everything.
Were you interested in the history of stardom or the history of Black stardom in particular?
I adore old Hollywood. It is my favorite thing I have since I was a middle schooler. So this has been my bag, and I've always loved and kind of Eat True Hollywood. Or You Must Remember This. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Turner Classic Movies does a bunch of before they would introduce the movie, they would give you a little juice of Marlon Brando and Frank Sinatra hated each other. So he kept messing up the take and just things like that I absolutely loved. And I was always so curious about Black Hollywood.
Yeah.
But one, it was so small, and the reporting on it was almost exclusively about their fight for civil rights and how people had discriminated against them.
Yep.
Or if there was gossip, it was whenever they interacted with a white person. But I didn't know anything else.
Yeah, it was scandal mongering almost is how a lot of it showed up. But my relation is that I wasn't super into gossip as a kid. At least I didn't think I was. I mean, I loved talking shit like any high schooler. But I wasn't into celebrity gossip. And then I found my way there when I started getting interested in old Hollywood. I think a lot of people, they understand contemporary Hollywood and they think it's kind of interesting, but also in some ways, I don't know, it's just so right there. But then once you dive into that treasure trove that is old Hollywood and the construction of all of their images, and this happened to me in college, and it eventually turned into, in grad school, my focus for my dissertation was the history of celebrity gossip. So I spent so much time in the treasure troves of like all of the old newspapers and the sort of gossip that traffics in like the daily columns and that sort of thing, but also in the magazines where like there was a
Yes.
lot
Oh my
going on there.
God.
And I have, this is before like wide scale digitization really took hold. I cannot tell you, I have like 7 boxes of like magazines that smell like my granddad that I bought on eBay. That just like,
Unbelievable. You're so lucky. That's amazing.
and I like, part of the reason I was so interested in your podcast in particular is that I loved seeing the contrast in the way that the Black press covered Dorothy Dandridge, for example, and how like Life magazine covered her, right? Like what was important, the conversations that they were having, the descriptions of her beauty, like even just down to adjective choice, like was so
Yes.
interesting. And even though it's harder to get your hands on a lot of the historical Black magazines, the newspapers have been digitized
Yes.
and are so easy to search and to unearth all of
Yeah.
this discourse. So once you get in there, you're like, I can't stop.
It's so fun. It's so fun. And they vary in how messy they will be because the ultimately the mission of most of the papers I've ever come across is to promote civil rights and is to amplify the sort of like dignified nature of
Yes.
being Black because it's being written in contrast to something else.
Yep.
But in order to sell papers, you have to appeal to all the sides of a human being. And so just, oh my God, these columns where they're, I did an episode about Paul Robeson.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've shared this, but the reason I did that episode is because I was reading a film review of Paul Robeson, of his, like, a movie that had come out. And they were saying, like, first of all, I mean, the writing is so, like, acerbic and, like, just like, ooh, cutting and double entendres and all this stuff is so good.
Yes.
But they were basically just like, we're really glad that Paul finally made a good movie because he is out here just playing himself. The last movie he made was so bad. He looked like a fool. Was like a joke. And so he's redeemed himself. And I was like, oh, you're talking about Paul Robeson that way? I've only seen him in the museum as a perfect person.
Right. Well, and Paul Robeson, such a complicated history, and we can get into this later too, with politics and like getting essentially like blacklisted out of Hollywood for various reasons that like intersect with his race, but sometimes that was not named as the reason why. I would just actually direct people to listen to your episode.
Listen to the episode. He's like was at his time, and this is the hardest thing to convey. This was a really hard part of writing it. The time that he was alive, he was like the most famous, among the most famous people on Earth. And in like all these different fields of like, politics and music and theater and film. And just like kind of like he was just a great thinker. He would have written all kinds of amazing diatribes on Threads or whatever. But then he's just like deleted from history.
Yes.
And it's really hard to explain when somebody has been deleted that they were like, like how it would be wild to not know Obama's name.
Yeah.
It would be wild at his time to not know Paul Robeson's name.
Yeah. Or like Oscar Michaud, who is like such an important figure in independent cinema and in Black cinema. And so many of the films were lost because they weren't deemed worthy of preservation. And there's been a huge movement to like basically reintroduce his films and his contributions into like film canon. But also there's like, he was messy, as you talk about on the podcast. His history is so messy.
I was so worried. I thought his one actually wasn't like, didn't have enough scandal, but then I get so many letters, especially from film people who love old Hollywood, that are like, oh my gosh, because I was really drawn to the fact that he is said to have been, so he's like this icon, this legend of independent cinema, and he kind of is the architect of Black Hollywood.
Yeah.
And all these directors, Ryan Coogler and Ava DuVernay and Spike Lee, cite him as a huge inspiration for their work. I watched a bunch of their interviews and them talking about him. And the number one thing people say is like, he's such a hard worker. He's such a hard worker. He grinds, he grinds, he grinds, he grinds. And then I read his autobiography that he wrote about himself. And he was like, everyone keeps calling me lazy. Oh, these jobs are so hard. I'm going to quit. But it's not because I'm lazy. And it's just, this is such a, the laziness is such a little, that's the battle of his youth, one of the many battles of his youth. And it's so funny because now we just remember him exclusively as like, he was just born hardworking and he died hardworking, but he had to
Well,
get
and
there.
I think this is like sometimes memoir is used as a corrective of like, this is all the shit that you guys talk about me. Like, let me show you something. Even that title, so our ancestors were messy. There's a lot going on inside that title, like trying to say our ancestors are not these paragons of like pure respectability at all times. So, like, how did you come up with the title?
The show, I've been working on it for a few years. The first iteration of it was actually an episode on my independent podcast, The Secret Adventures of Black People. And it was called The Ancestors Were Messy. And what I wanted to do, I just found the papers. I wasn't thinking about context setting. I was not thinking about academic analyses or bringing people into a world. I was just like, look at these crazy newspapers I found, you know?
Yeah.
And then eventually it really evolved into this mission to say that they were just human beings, and they were figuring out what it would mean to be Black and figuring out what it would mean to be an adult and figuring out what it meant to be an American. And they weren't gods. They just did all those things as mere mortals, and they made a lot of mistakes and they sorted it. Yeah. And so I think when I'm thinking my marketing hat, there wasn't really a big marketing hat. It really was like, they were really messy, and also referring to the messiness of identity. And as a storyteller, most of my stories are about identity. That's the thing that fascinates me the most. And so I love the messiness of figuring out like who you are as an individual, but then also like we're the first generations to be born free in America. So like we're going to define Blackness. And for Oscar in particular, I loved that he thought being Black could mean that we were going to move to one of the Dakotas.
South Dakota!
And start homesteads. And that is not what happened.
I cannot recommend this episode enough. And also just like the idea too, I think sometimes we think like, oh, our ancestors like got married and then stayed married and like there was no drama. And as the gossip press evidences, like there was a lot of shenanigans, and it was not ever as straightforward as we would like to think. And I think sometimes that messiness gets lost in the way that we tell stories about our families because we are trying to hold up some sort of like understanding of who we are as a family, right?
Yeah, yes, completely. And I do think that when I first started, I talked about how it took a few years to make, but that was because instinctively I just was like, okay, if I want to make this show for real, I need to delete all that gossip stuff I found and just sort of talk about like the important things that they did. But then when I was listening back to it and when I was sharing it with people, I was like, this doesn't feel like a person I can relate to. I am not perfect, so I don't know, I'm just going to sort of observe this history, but I can't engage with it. And two, it is not true. It just isn't true to say that to talk about the achievements without talking about the struggle and the mess and the mistakes that they made. And I think if we do both, then we can, the history becomes more of a playbook of how even you, an imperfect person, can make change in your life, whether that's like starting a film business or starting a revolution or finding love. I think you need to know all of it to know what's possible.
That is such a good tee up for us to talk about why gossip is important in friendships, workplaces, history, all this stuff. We talk a lot about celebrity gossip on the show, but we're going to talk about its function, I think, like for normal people, but also within communities. Like we're going to micro and macro level here. So we're going to start with a question from Zaina.
Why does it feel so important that gossip is about real people, even if we don't know the people? When I hear gossip, like on normal gossip or from friends, I don't necessarily expect every detail to be true, but it feels juicy because it actually happened to someone somewhere out there. I'd like it so much less if it were just a story.
Wow. What do you think?
Wow, what a good question. I mean, maybe the first thing that came to mind was what I shared before, which is just like, if you know that it's about a real person, then you can more easily insert yourself into their shoes and be like, would I do that? Would I not do that? And it's not pure escapism. It's more of a choose your own adventure. And that's really fun. Like a low stakes one.
And this brings me to like there's been all these books by anthropologists. Like when I was doing all of my work, I always had to like sort through these where it's like looking in like a community in like a small community and looking at how like the matrons of that community gossip in China,
The
in
red tent.
Borneo, yeah, in the red tent, right? Like all of this shit, right? And it's very clear that gossip is a way for especially women, but not exclusively women, but to come up with norms, right?
Yeah.
It's a way that we police norms. It's a way that we expand norms. Like gossip is a way when something doesn't seem like it's a norm that we should keep anymore, that we just we decide, okay, this doesn't work anymore. Have you seen the movie or read the book Women Talking?
Oh, they're they're not Shakers.
Mennonites.
They're not Mormons.
Mennonites.
They're Mennonites. Yes, I have. Yes,
Like
I have.
that is a movie that's just about women getting together and essentially gossiping, but also like consensus building.
Yeah.
About how are we going to handle this thing that happened in our community, right? And I think sometimes there is this tendency, and we'll talk about this more, to like understand gossip as frivolous. But even when you're gossiping about like housewives, right, or everything that's happened recently on like Secret Lives of Mormon Wives and The Bachelorette, like all of that, we're trying to figure out what it means to be a person in public in society today.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Completely. Totally agree. And then on a very kind of like micro, very simple level, because we are so separate, the things, what I decided to do when I was like, I need to stop being so stuck up and just like admit that I love these shows.
Yeah.
And when we came out of the pandemic, to be able to sit down with people, especially because I was in DC and I feel like we were, DC, sometimes we feed into the stereotypes of being very serious.
Yeah.
But to sit down, I remember my friend's 40th birthday dinner, and we just went so deep into Salt Lake City, The Housewives. That is an excellent franchise.
Yeah.
And it allows, when you allow yourself to gossip, I think that you allow yourself to connect with somebody in this like, it's not as intellectual. It doesn't need to be as intellectual. It's way more visceral. It's way more human. It's way more, what would you do? What do you think is okay, person? Here's what I think is okay. And here are the things that like I know aren't okay, but like I think are kind of fine. And you get to connect on this like around your norms and your morals and your values in a way that is not heady and is way more embodied. And I think that builds a stronger, more fulfilling connection than simply being like, well, we shouldn't talk about anybody else's business, because it's only partially about their business. It's really about connecting.
And I will always say that people who say that we should not talk about anyone else's business are people who are like, either they don't want anyone in their business for reasons that are complicated and sometimes straightforward, or they are very satisfied with the status quo and they don't want anyone being essentially like uppity.
Totally.
There's a line that you've used a couple times in the podcast where you reference the fact that like you went to Howard, and that at Howard everyone's like all the women are in the bathroom like talking about
Jonquilyn. Yes, she says that. Yeah.
and like talking about like liberation and like serious topics, essentially. Like that is the stereotype of a Howard grad. That's Jonquilyn who says that. Sorry.
No, I remember that.
And it just, that to me like really keys in with this, what you're talking about how like gossiping about something like Real Housewives allows us to have these more serious conversations. Like you're talking about the same issues. You're just not using the same like narrative structure of like, I'm writing a paper, like a 5-paragraph essay for college, right?
And the stakes are low and anyone can enter into the conversation. So the Socratic, the kind of nature of like, now I'm going to philosophize and teach you, and you will sit at my feet and learn. I'm a very visual sort of storyteller. And so I really don't ever want to be telling stories where your visual would be me on a stage and you all sitting like cross-legged, listening, looking up at me. Like it's meant to be that we are at the kitchen table surrounded by snacks, and I'm like, girl. Like there's the meme or whatever that's going around of like two girls and they're like clearly gossiping. And this is so terrible. I don't know why I'm going to just try to describe a video to you, but you can't hear any sound, but the girl is just like, and everyone's like covering her eyes. That is how I want. That's the kind of storyteller I want to be, and I just love what it brings out. in my guests.
Yeah, and your guests on the show, they're always like, are you kidding? Like, you're telling them this in real time, and they're like,
Yes.
oh.
I never tell them anything ahead of time, especially season 1 was so delicious. And it's just one of those things I'm always going to miss, but I'm so grateful for, the people have heard and connected with this one, but nobody knew anything. I truly was like, hey, can I tell you a story? And they were like, okay. And then they're like, Nicole, what's happening? As we win.
And it never went where I expected or anyone expected. The Culture Study podcast is sponsored by Lola Blankets. So, Melody, you told me you have a Lola story.
Yes. I went on vacation last week.
Yes.
What is the only thing I ever want to do on vacation?
Kirk.
Okay. Yeah. Read. Yeah. What is now indispensable to that vacation activity?
Lola. Did you bring your Lola with you?
I did. Because we were going on a road trip. It's just like endless space in the car. And so I packed up my XL Lola blanket, and then I turned the AC in the house down like really low. So it was like 65 in the house, and it was just under the blanket. And the whole week I was like, I'm so glad I brought this.
That sounds heavenly. Like, just thinking about that right now, like, I want to go do that right now. I want to be in a cold space with my
Take a Lola vacation.
Take a Lola vacation. We love Lola. We use our Lolas all the time. And everyone that I know who's been gifted one, who has one, like, they cannot shut up about it. They are the world's #1 blanket, crafted with ultra soft luxury faux fur and signature 4-way stretch that makes people instantly obsess over it the second that they touch it. It's machine washable, double hemmed, and built to last for years. I've washed mine, I don't know, like a dozen times. You just have to follow the instructions. Super easy. There's no shedding, which is awesome. No pilling, no delicate care worries. It makes it a gift that people can actually enjoy every day. I have mine in the large. You have yours in the extra large. I have jealousy that you got yours in the extra large. So
it covers the whole couch, basically.
And for a limited time, our listeners can get 40% off select Lola Blanket products with code CULTURE at checkout. Just head to lolablankets.com and use code CULTURE. After you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and let them know we sent you. Wrap yourself in true luxury with Lola Blankets. Today's episode is brought to you by Article. Today, Melody, I want to sing the praises of my favorite table lamp. I think we've talked about this before, but I'm actually getting another one because I like it so much and it's so versatile. It's called the Fila table lamp.
Oh, yeah. You influenced me. I bought 3.
3? Wow.
Yeah.
And it's in this beautiful green color. I have it in white as well. And it's just like the perfect size. It's like, I don't know, 6 inches tall about. It doesn't take up a ton of space. It emits a really a perfect amount of light for a table lamp. You can also put it on like a bedside table. Where do you have yours in the house?
Yeah, on my nightstand and then the 2 nightstands in the guest room.
Yeah, it's a perfect nightstand.
It's the perfect little reading lamp too, because it's flexible so you can point it where you want it to go.
Yes. We love Article because they make it so easy to create a stylish, long-lasting home at an unbeatable price. So like that lamp, what is it? $89? Amazing. But also less. Like, this is not something that you buy and then 2 years later you're like, oh, it's on the fritz. I have to get a new one.
Also, that lamp frequently goes on sale for $39.
What?
Just FYI to everyone. Yeah. Keep an eye on it.
Article also has fast, affordable shipping and assembly. You can get it all over the US and all over Canada with options for professional assembly if you get something larger than a lamp that requires a little bit more hands-on experience. You can also get support whenever you need it. Their customer care team is available 7 days a week, offering knowledgeable support and even free interior design services to help you get your home just right. And they have a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. So you can shop with confidence, knowing that if you're not completely in love with your new furniture, you can easily return it. So if you're in the market for a beautiful new sofa, outdoor furniture, which we talk about a lot, or a perfect bedside lamp, head to article.com. Okay, next question I think both of us are going to be very enthusiastic about. This is from Austin.
How can gossip studies, for a lack of a better term, be incorporated into proper archival research methods? And how do you think it can and should challenge how historians do traditional archival work?
So I'm not a historian. I haven't trained.
Yeah.
So I'm so conflicted on the way things have been done and the way that I want to do them. So I'll say I get a little bit self-conscious in this space, but I do have opinions.
Yeah.
And I think that when we talk about gossip and we talk about sort of just people chatting about their personal lives, I actually do think that would be this important and valuable to include in our historical analyses of different people and especially movements, because the ways people not liking each other has really tanked a lot of movements. And people being like, your wife did not send my wife the proper thank you, and that tells me that you guys are uncouth and we can't work with you. That has impacted actual movements.
Yes.
And so I think that rather than just saying, oh, it worked out, oh, it didn't work out, oh, it was just over this, over that, the gossip fills in all the lines in color. And again, if we're looking at history as a playbook, which that is what I believe in doing, you need to know that the interpersonal becomes the local is national, these small things become everything between the people. And we keep repeating these interpersonal mistakes, and these interpersonal breakdowns keep happening generation after generation in the exact same way, but they don't get written down because it just seems like gossip, but it is actually instructive. And so I do think that including things like that into, okay, well, why did this league survive and this league didn't, is so telling and really informative. I think it would be important.
My difficulty is sometimes history is so concerned in many cases with figuring out the truth, right? Like the historical record. And what I found with studying gossip is that sometimes the only person who knows what actually happened is the person themselves in a very small inner circle, right?
Yes.
And so what we do know, though, is how people talked about it at the time, which is often very different than how we talk about something now.
100%.
So an apropos example for this conversation is the story of Dorothy Dandridge, who was an incredible Hollywood star, was on the cover of Life magazine, so beautiful, so talented, had a really,
Halle Berry
really...
later played her.
And Halle Berry famously played her in an HBO miniseries, and that is how she's understood now, though, is how Halle Berry interpreted, almost to the extent that I think when a lot of people think of Dorothy Dandridge's face, they actually think of Halle Berry's face
100%,
playing Dorothy Dandridge. And that becomes the way that we understand something that happened, is how we can now narrativize it. So even something like the founding of America, right? Or Abraham Lincoln. I think of Daniel Day-Lewis's face instead of Lincoln's face.
And the voice. That was wild. I was
totally.
Sounds like that.
The example that was really difficult for me when I was writing my book about the scandals of classic Hollywood is everything that happened to Judy Garland, essentially, right?
God.
And it's really complicated. It's really sad. There's a lot of trauma. And there's how people talked about it in the gossip press at the time, which was very layered and omitted a lot in terms of information about her suicide attempts and abortions. And there is how various biographers have talked about it. And then there's also interviews that she's done. And the other thing, too, is that even the individuals themselves aren't always reliable narrators.
100%. 100%.
How did you think about that with the Oscar Michaud episode with using a ton from his own autobiography? How did you think of him as a reliable narrator?
I actually did in a lot of ways. There are parts where I'm like, okay, I know that you are exaggerating here or whatever. Well, I assume because there are things that he really does not like his father-in-law. And so it's that I know you're not giving this guy a fair shake. So I'm going to have to do some research to see what a person who had his beliefs would say in this situation in an argument and not just go off of what Oscar said. I really do like to tell, I was hoping to tell the story from his perspective and from his point of view. And then what I do is I try to learn as much context as I can around what's
Yep.
happening so that I can paint a fuller picture of the world that he's moving through and you can better understand what he's doing. I think without the context, let's say if I just focus on the Chicago chapter and he is quitting a bunch of jobs, maybe my assumption would be he was experiencing racism because that is typically speaking what you would read about in history.
Yeah.
But if you have the context of the way he describes himself, he's like, I don't want to work. It's too hot. It's too cold. It's too early. It's too late. And then all that his family has said, I can add this context and this bring out his humanity and saying that like this is likely he's probably quitting these jobs because he's kind of like a lazy guy. So I try to take everything they say with allow that to build out a character, let's say. But with my guests, what's really nice and the fact they're not experts is we can kind of speculate. And my guess in that one, Dr. Ray Christian, was really fun is that he is a person who he's like older and he's lived and has kids. So he was sometimes on Oscar's side, sometimes on the father-in-law's side. He was willing to see it from a lot of different perspectives. So I think in that way, we're able to kind of take this first-person narrative of what happened and question it in some places, build it out in other places, accept it if we'd like in other places like that. But it is tricky. It's tricky to go off of what everybody said about themselves. And I am using a lot of their letters and what they are saying about themselves.
And they're all interlocking. And this is, going back to the original question of like the place of gossip in the larger field of history is you have like how the gossip columns are talking about whether or not someone is a good match for someone.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it has to do with like their perceived value within society, which is in turn connected, especially at this time and in the Black community, to their proximity to whiteness. Can you talk a little bit about that? That was so interesting to me.
So it's and it really is city dependent.
Yeah.
But I do think in some cities, there's this expectation. I think I talk about this in the first episode, Stings for Our Enemy, Honey for Our Friends, where it's set in D.C. and it's set in Victorian era Washington, D.C., where it's immediately after slavery, and we're talking about a class of Black people who have achieved some degree of wealth. We may not consider them to be the richest people in the world today, but at the time, they are living much better than the average American, Black or white. And for them, what success looked like was imitating the things that white people were doing. And then for the larger culture, this becomes this definition of success. There's always a strain of people who are fighting against that kind of thinking. But when the power structure looks a certain way and you want power and you want safety, it's not wild to me to imitate that power structure in hopes that you will be accepted, that you will be safe, that you will, all these things. But it creates a lot of tension within the Black community, which I talk about in the gossip columns, because then people are just like, they're pretending to be white and they think that this is going to help them, and it's absolutely not. And that is sort of like a more fun way to examine this larger sort of liberation debate that's going on within the community at the time of like, do we need to fully separate and get away, or should we try to integrate by sort of assimilating to some of the things that we're seeing? It's very much sort of the thing of like you come from another country and then you don't teach your child the language because you want them to assimilate. That is a little bit of what's happening. And some of the gossip columns are just absolutely just dragging people for doing it, and other ones are dragging people for not and saying like you're not good enough if you're not wearing the right clothes and your hair isn't just so and your hat isn't this. Every city had a different theory, and I'm really, really interested in it, but I try not to judge it because a thing that my research producer, Chioke Ayenson, and I talk about a lot is that there's no way, even though they are Black and I am Black, I cannot know what it would be like to be the first generation of people born free in America. It just is an impossible thing to know. I can guess, but I don't know.
Right. And how they talk, too, about, like, whether or not they were slaves or not slaves, or their parents were slaves or not slaves.
That was a big deal.
And
that
trying
was a big
to,
deal.
yeah.
A
Like,
big source of shame.
Yeah.
But then also sometimes not, because if your dad was white, sometimes it was helpful. It's really strange. This is a small anecdote, but Cleveland, I'm learning this was a community where enslaved women who presumably, they had these children by the men that were enslaving them, could be sent to Cleveland and have like some semblance of an okay life, and the men would send them money. That's the thing. That's another thing that's really complicated about the past is the actual relationship between Black and white people.
Yeah.
I always learned that it was super separate, and it's so integrated and messy, and there's strange kind of affection, and there's strange love and strange envy and strange hate and strange like curiosity, and it's all much messier than we've made it out to be, but we've been way more interconnected than we've said.
And I think it's a lot more visible in the Black press than it is in the white press.
Yes, completely. They're always talking about it in the Black press.
Yes, and the white press, like, there's some stuff that's sublimated, but it's not explicit.
Totally, yeah.
So that, in and of itself, is like a really interesting place to delve into the historical record and look at how the discourse shifts depending on who is the perceived audience.
Oh
too.
My gosh, you are like speaking my exact language. I really wanted to do just like tell a bunch of stories as reported in the white press versus how they were reported in the Black press. It's really interesting to see the comparison.
Yeah. Okay, next question is about the different forms that gossip takes and who engages in them. This is from Katie Ann.
While gossip columns have never been my cup of tea, I enjoy reality TV shows and am obsessed with anonymous advice columns. To me, these are all just different mediums for gossip. Why is it that, no matter your favorite flavor of gossip, these spaces are so femme-dominated? And why is it that consuming this media has to be couched as a guilty pleasure? So many very smart women love consuming gossip, but society seems to really turn its nose up at it. Why can't we enjoy it out in the open?
Yes. Why can't we? Let's do it, everybody. Go outside. Open your windows. Scream it.
Well, and that's the thing is I think that people do enjoy it more publicly now, but they don't like to call it gossip, right?
Yes,
it's like, I love the point about anonymous advice columns because that is absolutely reading someone else's business and then coming to your own opinion about what it is, right? What they should do, what's fucked up about their lives, like all that sort of thing.
There's so many good little stories in there. I love to read an anonymous gossip. Like in the old papers, the first one that I really came across, it was the Court of Afro Relations. Or maybe it was called the Court of Human Relations. It's in the Afro-American newspaper. And it's just people... there's a picture of a judge, and then it's just everybody's little anecdotes. The first, I will never forget this one. A neighbor, this is like 1938, they're complaining because they live in a boarding house, and then one neighbor has a dog, and the dog is so like loud and untrained and out of control. They're like, they just let this dog do whatever. Everyone's so sick of this, and the judge offers, his judgment. But what you learn from that story is like, oh my gosh, there were people living in a boarding house with dogs in 1938, and then the judgment tells you a lot about the time.
Yeah.
Why is it so femme dominated? I mean, I think you spoke to that.
I actually don't think it's even. I think some of the pop culture forums that we are talking about today are pretty femme dominated in terms of like reality television, femme, or like I know a lot of gay men who are also very, very invested
even back in
this.
the day too.
Yes, for sure. And there were many gossip columnists who were gay men and used the columns as a way of actually like subtly outing who was gay and who wasn't. One of my favorite anecdotes is like there was this columnist, Mike Connolly, who was the gossip columnist for the Hollywood Reporter in, I think, the 50s, maybe the early 60s. And he would report on, like, who went out to dinner with whom the night before. And if it was, like, two gay men and their beards, he would, like, the way that he would arrange their names, it would be woman's name and, like, the ampersand would connote who was actually having sex with who. And he knew this in part because he was also a gay man and privy to what was going on. But I think that men gossip about sports all the fucking time.
100%. 100%.
And they just don't call it gossip.
Exactly. That's exactly it. I listen to this podcast, The Town, but that's not the one which is fun, but I really like Big Picture.
Yes.
And then what's the one with Chris Ryan and Andy?
The Watch.
Yes, thank you. Big Picture and The Watch. These are two of my favorites. I love to hear them talk about sports. I don't know anything about sports. I love to hear them just going back and forth, and it's absolutely gossip, and it's absolutely them being like, if I was in this man's shoes, this is what I would have done.
Yeah.
Oh, this was going to impact his game. All of these things. The parts that they care about aren't necessarily the parts that I care about, but the rhythm of it is the same rhythm of gossip, so you get the same kind of hit from it of like, what would you do? Choose your own adventure. It's the same thing.
I would actually argue that all of those Bill Simmons universe shows on The Ringer, they are all inflected with this like pop culture sensibility as a means to describe or understand what's going on in sports. And when we say that, what they're actually doing, like they're mapping celebrity and gossip narratives onto what is happening on the field and off the field.
Brilliant. Write a paper. That's it. We're gonna BuzzFeed. Call them. Oh no, they're gone. But yeah, you're exactly right. That is because they have such a formula over there, that's the formula.
And it's incredibly
really
successful.
Yeah, it's really they're fun listen. And you know what I always wish? Like I'm having so much fun in this conversation, and I always wish that we would talk about podcasts in this way.
Yes.
In that kind of fun way that they do, and not this like kind of staid sort of like, I think this was good or bad, but like just have a little bit of fun, take it a little less seriously. I think that is the way the culture is going, is people just want to feel, girls just want to have fun. You know?
Well, this is, okay, we're going to get super meta. Don't you think that this is the two like modes of podcasting energy right now are like, let's arrive at some thinking about a large, big, like capital letters issue in our society by extended conversation and consensus building, or by heavily produced argumentation, right?
Ooh, I think you're right. I think that these are the only two modes right now. Well, or one person just talking.
Yeah. Just talking like into the universe.
That one
like,
too.
That
For
one
some
too.
reason that works.
And it's really interesting to me because there is still, I think, this understanding within the podcast world, and you are way more familiar with this than I am, that like the high art podcasts are always heavily produced, right? Like the serious stuff is not conversational in this way. Yeah. But also, I think that those podcasts are struggling.
Yeah.
Unless they're like a more straight news type of thing. Like even the success of something like Today Explained.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And contrast that with something like The Daily, which both of them are juggernauts, but Today Explained is much more like, let me talk with a journalist about how this works, like what's happening. Let's explain it to one another, as opposed to a more like, this is what is happening in the world today. Fascinating.
It's format stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So when I was working on my, wait, are there more questions?
There are more questions, but keep going on this. Keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I was working on my show, you know, I was really torn because I wanted to make something that I wanted to listen to.
Yeah.
And increasingly, it's like that Bill Simmons world, that kind of recap world where two people who not are just very knowledgeable, but really like each other.
Yeah.
Like have something in common, not intellectual, but actually something in common kind of from the heart realm. And I think this has been a big theme with the show, is like, can I connect with you emotionally and in your heart and not just your head? That's really important for me for this show specifically.
Yeah.
And so when I was trying to figure out format, I ended up needing to do something that is very much not like, even though it's so heavily produced, and I got to find some way to do less, but it's so in the vein of all the shows that I love. But when I was thinking about like, do you want to listen to one of the shows that you love tell this story? And I was like, honestly, no. I would much rather the dudes at the Watch tell me this story. And what do I do about that? you know?
And to connect this to our larger forum, I've always thought that part of the brilliance of the Ringer universe is that he told, like, he hired people and then he said, like, hire your best friend. Like
He
people
did.
that
Was
were
that's
already
intentional?
like if you like Chris Ryan and Andy Greenwald were like friends from before, right? Like they like that's part of why they have this chemistry. And think about who
Right.
you have the best gossip with.
Yeah,
Like
it's the
who
homies.
yeah, like you can when you have that intimacy that allows you to
Yeah.
like get deep and
Yeah.
talk about these issues that matter, you can do it whether it's about sports or it's about a new television show or whatever it is. Like it just
Yeah.
you're able to do that. And I saw that
So
with you on the show. Like
Well,
there
I
is
don't
an
really know any of these people.
no, just there you were able to create some intimacy though.
You know what it is? It's like I think because I spent a lot of time playing with this and I did improv, so I know what
Yeah.
it is to like put on a character. And when you get to, it's so funny when you are asked to be the Black person and the Black authority on something, and it's an experience that all of us can share and have had. And so I think that in that way, that's the thing that is our intimate moment where we start to build is this question of like, what kind of Black are you? And then we get to talk about how the world perceives your Blackness and how you perceive your Blackness.
Yep.
And we get to like laugh at what they're getting right and what they're getting wrong. And then we move through the story as two people who have this identity that is so massive that you walk into a room and people are seeing generations of history before you've even said a word. And you get to play with it and be like, you're totally wrong. I'm going to go about it this way or that way, you know? And that creates that connection because that was really important to me.
Yeah.
And Blackness is the thing that we're being intimate. That's our Andy, Chris Ryan. I can't believe how much we've talked about them. Should you tag them? Do you think they want to get in on this?
The Culture Study podcast is sponsored by OneSkin. All right, you've heard us talk about OneSkin before, and I know some of you are people who will try new skincare products whenever they come out, and some of you are like, I don't know what skincare product to use. I'm going to find one and then I'm going to use it forever. Both very valid. But sometimes you realize like it's not working the way that it used to. And that's because our skin changes all the time. Like a dermatologist told me when I was 27, every decade, your skin has like brand new needs. I was devastated. I was like, I just figured out acne. And now you're telling me that like I'm going to have to continue to figure things out like every decade of my life. But it doesn't have to be that hard. As we age, some skin cells stop functioning the way they should. Longevity scientists call them zombie cells, which is a great name. And zombie cells are what drives the visible signs of aging, which I like to think of as the visible signs of you kind of looking like you're asleep all the time or like just woke up. The fine lines, loss of firmness, this feeling of like dullness that creeps in over time. And that's what OneSkin's OS1 peptide was specifically engineered to address. So with OneSkin, you get everything you expect from great skincare, with OS1 doing something most skincare was never built to do. I like using the General Moisturizer. It's a perfect base. I think a lot of people love it, especially people who aren't really into skincare but feel like they need a moisturizer. I also love the under eye cream. And this isn't just about my experience. OneSkin's results are backed by 4 peer-reviewed clinical studies, over 10,000 5-star reviews, and they've been recognized by Bloomberg as a leader in skin longevity. You really don't need a complicated routine to get healthier, younger-looking skin. Born from over a decade of longevity research, OneSkin's OS1 peptide is proven to target the visible signs of aging, helping you unlock your healthiest skin now and as you age. And for a limited time, you can try OneSkin with 15% off using code CULTURE at oneskin.co/culture. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code CULTURE. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Today's episode is sponsored by Gooder. So I was so thrilled when we got the email that Gooder wanted to sponsor us because I have been using Gooder sunglasses for at least 7 years. Ever since I first saw them, I was like, these are for me. I lose sunglasses all the time. I am really rough on them. I sit on them. I leave them in my car in random places. I leave them on the top of my head. I garden with them. I run with them. And Gooders are perfect for all of this. And they don't slip or bounce. This is my favorite thing because I hate it when sunglasses slide down the sides of your nose when you get even the slightest bit of sweat on you. They stay put. I wear them for running. I wear them for gardening. I wear them for driving. I wear them all the time. They come in so many different colors and so many different styles now. They used to have just a couple of styles, and now for every type of face, they have ones that are larger or smaller. If you have small face like me, like I need to wear smaller sunglasses. I said that they're great for running. Like this is how I first got into them, was that we all got them for our running team. Like we all ran together in these gooders. But then I found myself using them all the time. They're good for every type of lifestyle. And like some of them look very, I don't know, quote unquote athletic. And then some are more fashion forward. If you're ready to upgrade your eyewear to something functional, fashionable, fun, and affordable, just head to goodr.com/culture to claim $10 off your first order. That's GOODR.com/culture. This is a great tee up for our next question, which comes from Divya.
I'm curious about gossip in corporate workplaces and how it helps create psychological safety for minority groups. I'm a woman of color in tech and have always had to be really careful about who I can reveal my true politics to and who I can talk to when I'm being treated unfairly. I genuinely feel like I wouldn't have survived without gossip from other women/POC, and now I also have very close friends from past jobs.
I mean, I've been independent for like 6 or 7 years because it was rough. I had some rough rides.
Yeah.
But you know what? The role of gossip, going to a meeting and having that meeting be absolutely unhinged and just sitting there, just like back straight, just, and then going to the bathroom with people and being like, what? That is one of the most affirming, most like, it just feels like an exhale. That's the best feeling in the whole entire world. And that's gossip, but it's like, it's information to know, like, this is what they're presenting. And this is what's going on behind the scenes. And you're not crazy to be sensing that something is off. You're not out of your mind to be, feeling like that something went wrong in that meeting. We're all on the same page. That kept me sane in more ways than, actually having like some kind of like a growth mindset conversation. Like, it's like, we need to talk about the things that are going on that we aren't supposed to be talking about, because I need to know what is real and what is absolutely made up.
Yeah, it's a real, like, it combats gaslighting essentially, right? Like, if you're not talking to other people, you don't know, like, this is a common experience, right? This is how this manager behaves with everyone.
Exactly.
And also, like, believe your coworkers, because sometimes for various reasons, like, a manager can be one way to you and a very different way to
100%.
Another person, right?
Oh my God. Yes.
We had 2 other questions that were in this vein that I just will quickly summarize. But one was about, like, how all of these women at work gossip, and, like, HR kind of is like, you shouldn't be doing that. That's unprofessional. And then another one was about, like, how much teachers gossip and how, like, the teacher, like, the lounge, the teacher's lounge is like this incredible place for, like, talking about everything that's going on in the industry, but also with their specific school and that sort of thing. And how they use it for, like, they share their salaries. They talk about like, all this. And how, again, there is this messaging that's coming from leadership that they shouldn't gossip.
Of course.
So
it's like it's threatening to the system. To what you were saying, like, if you're against it, you kind of want to maintain the status quo. I literally was just watching 9 to 5. I've been watching it since I was a kid, and so I was rewatching that. I totally forgot that everybody thought that Dolly Parton slept with the boss because he was spreading that gossip, and then they were spreading it around. But it's like there's these efforts to maintain the status quo, I think you just said it so perfectly in the beginning of this conversation, are what drive that kind of culture, what drive that sort of policy. Right. The transparency is vital to progress. There's no other way. If we don't know, what's going on and we don't know about these discrepancies in pay and in treatment, how are we going to create a situation that's better for everybody?
Yeah.
Otherwise it just stays tiered in that way.
Absolutely. Like, of course, HR doesn't want you gossiping,
Of
right?
course,
They want
right.
to like take each of your complaints
Yeah.
and individualize them
Yes.
and make them disappear, right?
Exactly.
Like, HR is not your friend. You cannot gossip with HR and like get shit done. Like, it's not gonna.
Oh my gosh. Listen, if there's somebody listening, I hate when people address listeners, but I have to do this because I feel it so deeply in my soul.
Yeah.
If you are early in your career and you think that somebody in HR is your friend,
Yeah.
don't think that.
Yeah.
Like, you guys can be homies, but like, you just like, they have jobs to do. And you can't be telling them, oh my gosh. But I worked at one job where the HR person was the gossip. It was nuts. It was so bad. So juicy.
That's so
Oh.
juicy at your own, like the place where you worked.
The age, yes, like the person, and this person was a man, and the biggest gossip, and it was always like such a routine of like, oh well, that person might not be able to handle that right now, and we'd be like, why? Like, well, they're just going through a lot. We're like,
No.
what? Yes, and they would tell us.
Well,
But they wouldn't think that they were.
And that is unprofessional gossip, right? Because
So
that's like
unprofessional.
that is actually their task, is to hold this professional like personal information.
Yeah.
It's very different than gossiping about your manager. But I will say, I some of my friends in HR who we are not trash talking HR. We're just saying
No, love them.
if like they are doing their jobs and their jobs are to protect the corporation, right?
Mhm.
It's
That's
just
exactly it.
understand
Yeah.
what their job is. But one of my friends who's in HR, I love hearing her stories. She never tells me any sort of identifying information.
Right,
Like,
yes.
it would never, like, I don't have anyone to tell it to, but
Yeah.
it's just like, oh my gosh, that's how someone behaves on the job.
Yes, I feel you completely, because one of my friends is in HR and and I'm glad you made that caveat, because it's like, they are lovely people, we love them, but their jobs are to protect this company. You can't just be telling them all these secrets. But I had this one friend, and she has the wildest stories, and she won't give me anything, even though we're in different states. Our industries are so different, and there's something about it where I'm like, just give me a name. Like, can we please just make up a name? And she's like, no, because she won't even do like any kind of gender identifiers, like nothing, everything is they. And I'm like, I just want to visualize. I'm trying to create a little scene in my head. And she's like, absolutely not.
Well, that's like in your podcast where you ask the person, like you're describing a character and you say to the person that's your co-host for the show, like, who are you picturing in your mind? What contemporary star are you picturing in your mind?
Yes, exactly.
Like, Idris Elba as Oscar Michaud is very funny to me. But the other thing I want to say about like teacher gossip, what was it going to be about unionized? Okay. This is inside baseball, but we're on this podcast, and Culture Study is just on Patreon now. We made the switch over. There's a bunch of people who also came over at the same time. There's just like when you switch to any new platform, there are always problems. And before Patreon, and I don't have a problem saying with this, Patreon was siloing us so that like each one of us would communicate to the person who is trying to manage our problems. Like, this is an issue, this is an issue, this is an issue, right? But we got a background chat, right? So like all of these writers and podcasters are talking about the issue, and then it's not a union, but it is solidarity, that when we all say this is a massive problem, it becomes a bigger force against like the people who are trying to fix the problem, right? Or or not doing as much to fix the problem. And to me, like, that like group thread is gossip.
Yeah.
But it's also power. It is power.
Exactly. Yeah. Gossip is power. I think that's a great way to look at it. You're exactly right. Because now I'm thinking about all the times that we all got together. We were like, did you get this email? I didn't get that email. What's going on? And then it starts to bubble. It starts to create a collective. And now we're moving as one, which of course you have so much more power if you're moving as a collective versus as an individual.
Right. Or I think of like the shitty media men list. Do you remember this?
Oh, I do remember that. Oh my God, I haven't thought about that in so long.
It was like And again, this was meant to be private gossip.
Right.
And when it became public is when it became libelous.
Yeah. Sometimes some of these things do need to stay a little bit like in the group chat for a while. Like you don't want to put everything out there.
Right. So I think of it in layers, right? Like gossip is like the way that we like share information. And then for something to become like actionable, then you have to like it has to be handed over to professionals in some capacity. So that could be a lawyer, that could be I guess law enforcement, or it could be journalists who then do the work of like, okay, I'm going to interview this person, I'm going to interview this person, and I'm going to get this person on the record, like whatever.
Yes.
But it has to start somewhere. People have to start talking about something somewhere.
That's it. That's exactly right.
This was so fun.
This was so fun. I was like, oh my God. I've actually been not doing interviews anymore. Well, not until the fall because I'm working on my second season of my show, and I'm deep like that. I'm in a different time period that I'm used to. And so the gossip is like to understand it, I need scholars and interpretation and da-da-da-da because it's really like some golden age Reconstruction era double onto like, you know, like we're speaking underneath this is what it means, this is not what it means. And so I've been really, really deep in that. But I'm so glad that we talked. This was really wonderful.
No, and like that, well, first of all, we will promote the hell out of it. But that, like, I totally get to the, like, I'm not doing press for that anymore. Like, this is like...
Well, it's just like I can't talk to anybody about, usually, you know what it is? I really appreciate the questions that you're asking me because a lot of times I get asked about the gossip of the show in a way that makes me worried that the larger meaning of what this kind of these kind of conversations are doing are lost. Right. And I don't know if you can convey the meaning if I just do a dissertation about it. But I think that the things that you enjoy about gossip and the things that I enjoy about gossip are similar, and it could be because of our relationship to old Hollywood and just the role that gossip played there, which is I think more pronounced and more kind of professionalized and appreciated. It was like, we're going to construct a whole image and we're going to give you stories. We're feeding all these things to the press, and then we're able to go over here and actually live our lives and do whatever it is we're trying to do. Yep. I appreciate being able to talk about the show in that vein because I think that that is the way that people historically used gossip, and it gets erased, but it shouldn't.
Well, and like they will look back on our period of time and think about all of the gossip, like whether it's housewives gossip, whether it's members of the cabinet, whatever it is, like we're trying to figure out our norms. We're trying to figure out what matters.
Yes. The thing that led me to make the show in the end is that I was in Washington, D.C., and the format decided, like, I'm leaning into the gossip. I was in D.C. during, I mean, I lived there for years and years and years, but I was there during the pandemic, and I used to go to this park up the street from me all the time, and it was up the street from the Capitol, and everybody just always walking around these ratty sweatpants. We're all just so miserable, really, what's happened to our lives. And then the insurrection happened, and the city, we were fully occupied by the National Guard. It's a terrible, terrible feeling. So I would go to the park the way I always had, but then everybody now all of a sudden is in like nicer yoga pants, and I was like, why is everybody doing that? And like nicer, their hair's in like a nice ponytail. And then I realized there's like these National Guardsmen that used to like post up under this tree. They had truly nothing to do. The insurrection already happened, but you know, they were there. And people start being like, oh, hello. Oh, thank you for your service. And now they're bringing them food. And there was like kind of like this debate in our local blogs of like, why are you feeding them? They're fed. But people are like, we have to help them. And DC is not the kind of city to be like, oh, let's do all that.
Right.
And so then that was like the first layer. And then the next layer was that somebody put out this call and they were like, ladies, here's what you need to do. Go onto your dating profiles. Change all your stuff to conservative. Get somebody to admit that they insurrected the Capitol. Get a picture, send it to the FBI. And then they ended it with happy hunting. And I was like, this will be lost to history. Right. But this has consumed my everyday of this pandemic. You will never know that during the pandemic, we decided to do honeypot operations wherever we were. That's important.
Right. Well, and I think, too, about like, there's what has been digitized in terms of old historical newspapers, but think about all of the like we would call them rags, like the gossip rags, the
Yeah,
version
yeah.
of like the local blogs
Mm-hmm.
that are lost to history. And there is going to be so much that is lost from the glory, quote unquote, glory days of gossip of the 2000s.
Oh
That
my God.
there is going to be no record. And I'm like,
Yeah.
who will believe me about what happened with Firecrotch in 2007?
Oh
right?
my God. I haven't thought about that.
Sorry.
No one. They'll say we're making it up, and it happened.
You're like, it was on
real.
Perez Hilton. The images are gone because he stole them. Nicole, this has been such a pleasure. If people want to find more of your work on the internet, please tell us where they can find it.
Yes, you can go to ourancestorsweremessy.com. There's a website. I'm told people don't do websites anymore, but I'm from a different era, so that exists. And then we're all over social media with a caveat. I'm doing the best I can on social. But if you follow, here's why you should follow me on social media. Because every blue moon, when you least expect it, there's going to be a post. And isn't that fun?
Well, and Instagram will surface it because you haven't posted in so long.
Exactly. And then you get to be a part of the kind of like, ooh, the groundhog came out, you know? And that's why I think you should follow me on socials. Oh, and sign up for my newsletter, though. I've had a newsletter for a while, and I haven't advertised it in any way, shape, or form. But get into it. You can get on there from my website.
Amazing. Thanks so much for listening to the Culture Study Podcast. Today, paid subscribers got a bonus conversation between Melody and me about what to do with boomer parents that's not just sitting around chatting. It's great. We have great ideas. Trust me, you're going to want to listen to this. If you want to support the show and be sure you always get that bonus content, head to patreon.com/culturestudy. It's $5 a month or $50 a year, and you'll get ad-free episodes, an exclusive advice time segment, and weekly discussion threads for each episode. It's also very easy to add on to your existing newsletter subscription and much cheaper. Be sure to follow the show wherever you get your podcasts. We have so many great episodes in the works, and I promise you don't want to miss any of them. I always say that, and it's always true. Also, if you want to suggest a topic, ask a question about the culture that surrounds you, or submit a question for our subscriber-only advice time segment, go to our Google forum at tinyurl.com/culturestudypod or check the show notes for a link. The Culture Study Podcast is produced by me, Anne Helen Peterson, and Melody Rowell. Our music is by Poddington Bear. You can find me on Instagram at Anne Helen Peterson and Melody at Melodious47.